Why talk? Hmm? Why do we talk? Why do we talk?
That's all we come to. That's all we get.
That's what talk is, communication. Why?
Ideas, understanding one another.
No, one second. That's to understand another person, listen. To talk is to what?
To express
To reveal what you inside of you, what's going on inside of you. So yeah, to connect, maybe don't talk. Listen. Right? But that you should express or rather reveal that's what expression means, right? To reveal what your thoughts are, what your feelings are, your perspective on things. Therefore, we talk. Hmm? But it's an interesting thing. How do we talk? How do we talk?
it's all about. Yes,
Wow. We talk with words, with language, right? Caveman grunted. if he did. I don't know. According to some, right? That was the other side of the family that I don't come from. Maybe you come from, but I don't come from. Right? So what was grunt? What was the grunt? They're expressing what? Emotion, right? Was it expression of an emotion of pleasure? It was an expression of difficulty, pain, challenge, right? But we have language, which language is made up of words. In Hebrew, the word for word is teva, which teva means an ark, a receptacle. An ark is a receptacle, right? Why is it a receptacle? What does it mean it's a receptacle? Because a word is merely like a piece of stone in the fact that it's inanimate, the word itself, right? It has no life to it except the life you give to it. In other words, that's why we say sticks and stones break my bones, but names will never hurt me because it's just a word, right? But the word contains a meaning. And that meaning could, uplift, exalt, or it could crush and be devastating, right? But that's the intent of the word as opposed to the actual word itself, right? The word is merely just a vessel for the idea, the thought. So really, when you speak, we say the whole purpose of speaking is to what? Reveal ourselves. But what do? We put it into words that are containers that a container actually conceals. That's why the words themselves are not sufficient when you hear from a person. You have to understand their intent. You have to understand where they're coming from. You have to read their body language. But that's not the word, because the word is concealing. As a ark or a container conceals what's inside of it.
Are you asking more questions to clarify?
No, listen to the idea. No, that's not the point. That's not the point we're making here. That's not the point. That you're right. What you're saying is correct. Therefore, you have to ask more and more because you're not getting the point. That's my point I'm making, is that you're not getting the point. Right? Now, if you look over there, you're not going to get the point. You look over here, you might get it. The point being that the whole purpose of to converse, to reveal, to communicate, to talk, so I can reveal myself. Yet we do it in a format that is concealing. Think of it this way, another way to bring out this idea. Right? As I just explained, the word is a container. A container conceals. And the proof is that here I'm saying something to you, Menachem Hillel, and I have to repeat it this way and that way and another way. Why? Because my words are not, in my mind, they're bright and clear, and I got it. But when I'm bringing it out to you or to anybody else in that container, it's limiting that container, and therefore it doesn't bring out the full idea. That's why you need to know the context. That's why you need to know the body language. That's why you need to read between the lines, right? You have to hear the tone. Yeah, all these things that are beyond the word that I'm expressing. So here we want to express, we want to reveal ourselves, but in the end, we're kind of hiding behind the word. And sometimes we do hide behind the word, right? Because we say something and we meant something else, right? We hide behind it because the word does conceal. So we have kind of a paradox over here, right? So we actually, when I am now thinking the way it is in my head, an idea, what am I doing? The first thing, I have to contract upon it in order to bring it into words that are a container, that are limiting, right? That are limiting in order that you should appreciate my expression, my thought, my idea. If I don't do that, right, then it'll just be like you hear sometimes some like geniuses, right? They just talk and they're like way over, you don't get them because they're talking where they're at, where their thoughts are, right? And that's what they're expressing, but they're not contracting it sufficiently to limit it, to put it into proper words that will carry an idea that another person will be able to grasp and understand, accept, right? So here we want to reveal ourselves, and we do it by a mode of containing ourselves, contracting upon the idea, right? So ultimately that you can get that idea. Just hold on to that thought. A very powerful idea, right? Welcome to Tanya today. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from Chabad Zich and Kadeshim in Montreal, Canada, where it's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. We continue today in chapter 21. We are on a journey to understand how the chachma of my soul, right, that desire of my divine soul to be bound up with God, to lose its identity, that will die for God in martyrdom, not to renounce our faith. How do we live with that, not die with it? How do we live in a manner that that the core of my soul, the chachma that is revealed in a time of a test of faith, that how do I live with that, and not merely in a time of martyrdom, that becomes revealed and expressed within me. That's where we're going. And what we're doing now is trying to understand creation. How do you look at the world? So most people look at the world based on most people, Jewish people without Tanya, will look at the world as we learn in the Shema, right? Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. I mean, he's one. Zeus isn't. And JC isn't. There's no Trinity. There's only one God. Now, as Rashi explains in Chumash and Rashi, right? Rashi explains Hashem Elokeinu, he's our God. Right now, he's only our God because we only have that notion, right? Others, okay, to some degree. But the whole point is that ultimately it should be the notion of all people, all of humanity, right? That's the way until Tanya, until Hasidus, that's the way I was basically understood. Now we're getting a deeper understanding that it doesn't mean merely that there's just, that we don't believe in multiple gods, right? We don't believe in another kind of God or whatever. but as the Jewish definition of God, as explained in the Maimonides, for example, and by our sages, no means Hashem Echad means there's only but God. The only existence is God. The only reality is God. So where am I? Where are you? That's where we're coming to understand. How is it that I feel me? Not only I feel me, but I even feel an independence of God. Even though I believe in him, I can still feel my independence. I feel my selfhood, right? That's where we're going. So we started in chapter 20. What do we say? We use the metaphor of the human condition as that one word that I say, not the value of the word, not the impact of the word, but just a word compared to my capability of speaking is insignificant. Compared to my thoughts that never turn off is totally insignificant. One word, right? Again, not the impact of the word, but a word itself, right? Compared to where my my thought of and language in my mind, where does that come from? Where does it come from? Where does it come from? Where do your thoughts come from? Come from your heart, right? That which is strong feelings in your heart will be what you will think about in your thoughts.
That's the animal soul.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, I mean, yes, I mean, but that's not the point here of but animal soul, godly soul, right? It could be a very strong feeling that you have that's based on the godly soul for, your compassion towards somebody, right? And it's deeply touching you, right? And maybe it's touching you, it's positive, but that's not the point over here in any case, right? The point is, caveman, he didn't have language in his there's no language. That is every language. Oh, is every language, right? That's feelings, raw feelings. Why? Because it's no language, right? Because it's not a language. That's where your thoughts come from. Your thoughts come from there. How significant is your word compared to that? Nothing. Nothing. And compared to where that and came from, which is your brain, your intelligence, not your thought in your brain, your intelligence, perspective, right? Cup half full, half empty. That's not, you don't have to think that way. You just, your brain is that way, right? That causes right? The cup is half full, so they say, but if you see it half empty, that all came from the mind, right? The brain, the intelligence, how we perceive something. How is that then one word compared to that? Totally, absolutely insignificant. Well, that's this world that God created. It's totally insignificant before God. He created with a word. It's totally nothing. That's what we learned till now. That's vis-a-vis the world, the way it is, so to speak, in God and in his perspective, right? How about the word of God as it emerges and becomes a world? Like me from my perspective then, or the world from its perspective, the word itself, right? Not the way the word is, in perspective of God, that it is absolutely nothing, and therefore there is no world. It's only an expression of him, right? But the word itself. So with this, we're going to now, what's the nature of the divine order? It's not like a human being. So now we have to understand speech, concept of speaking, right? So we're going into the metaphor now. Tomorrow we'll learn the analog, what this means. Not today. Okay? When I speak, right, what happens? There's a breath that comes out. Not only breath comes out, the word comes out. Parenthetically, careful what you say, because you say something, it's out there, can't take it back, right? It's separated from you. It becomes a reality, right, of its own, so to speak, if you will. That's by the human being. That's not by God. Because nothing's outside of God. There's nothing separate from him. As we said, Hashem Echad means oneness of God. There's nothing but him. That's what the Shema is saying, right? Now we're trying to understand what it means intellectually, with our minds, not just taking it on faith, right? We're trying to understand the concept. How is it so? That's why we need the metaphors over here, right? As we're explaining. So God's speech is not like our speech. His speech, his thoughts are not like, as the verse says in Isaiah, right? My thoughts are not like your thoughts, right? What does that mean? My thoughts hide what I'm thinking, and my speech is in order to reveal the hidden thought, right? Well, that's God's speech too. God's speech, that there was something hidden before that's a part of him that now he wants to reveal. So what's he revealing? What's he revealing? World. He's revealing a world. World. With his word, he made a world. Now that world is not separate, right? That's what we'll get to in a moment. But what's he doing? The point of God speaking the world into being is to reveal a world that was hitherto not revealed, right? That the light and life force of the Ein Sof that was in concealment becomes, through the act of creation, revealed. That's God's speech. What else is revealed that was hitherto concealed? God's wisdom. And he revealed it. Where did he reveal it? By the 10 Commandments. Well, 10 utterances. That's the 10 utterances that God created the world into being, right? But likewise, he also, the Torah, the prophets and the holy writings, is also called God's speech, right? With God, it's God communicating to us his divine will, his divine wisdom. Before he did it in writing of the Torah, of Tanakh, where was it? In his thought. Speech just meant it was communicated, that now it became a reality in communication, that we now have something of it. Right? Is that clear? That's the point of God's speech, to reveal. Where there is, and that's a similarity to our speech. We speak to reveal us. Right? Is that clear? Yeah, I'm everybody with me? Glad to hear that. Now, the breakdown in this metaphor is, as we said, when I'm speaking right now, what's coming out? The breath is coming out, and the word is coming out, right? The impact of that word is coming out for good, and hopefully for even better, right? It shouldn't be the opposite. It should be only for good, right? It comes out, and the breath is physically coming out, expressing that also coming out is the idea that, you can't, someone said some lashon hara about somebody, so he came to the rabbi, he feels bad, says, go take a pillow of feathers and go throw them in the air. Okay, so he went. Then he said, okay, I did that. Okay, tomorrow go gather them. He says, but I went and they were blown all over the place. Well, that's our words that we say that they blow all over the place, right? And because they came out of us, right? And you can't, and it's hard to gather them. Therefore, careful what you say, right? That's point being that it leaves us, the breath physically, and the notion that, or the what we've expressed leaves us, but not by God. That's where the metaphor breaks down. We say God speaks the world into being, meaning he reveals himself, as we just explained, revealing by creating a world, by revealing his wisdom in Torah, but it's not something that became separate of him. It still remains a part of him. It's like it's still in his thought or still in his mind and still in his heart, if you will. It's absolutely unified and one with him. Just as it was with me before I expressed it. Before I express my idea, where is that idea? Where is that, those words? My thought. Where's that? That's part of me. And even deeper, where is it? In my heart, which is even more me, right? Deeper part within me. Totally one with me. Well, that's the way it is with God. Even after he expresses and reveals, it didn't depart and leave him in separate. It's unified and one with him, which we're going to get into the analog, God willing, tomorrow to appreciate it. All right, that was heavy duty stuff. Thank God. Thank you for joining. We will continue our conversation. Our